All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Homegrown Happy Hour. As promised, I have two very special guests in the studio right now. They have a new album out called Finding Home. They are Collective, Brennen and Beth Meek. How y'all doing?
Good.
We're doing great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Man, hey, thank y'all for coming through. I've been fangirling about this album ever since y'all put it out because it just... There's nothing that sounds like it. I mean, y'all didn't just create an album. You created a piece of art.
Oh, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just insane because, I mean, there's so many sounds. There's so many genres of music, styles of music. What genre would y'all put yourself in as a band?
That's been the big question.
Cinematic indie folk jazz.
Yeah.
That's good. that was a lot better of an answer than I was expecting.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. If I could sum it up into one word, I would say cinematic. Yeah.
I get it because, okay, for example, one of my favorite songs off the album is the last song, Nightfall.
Oh, cool.
And the reason is because it's almost like you're listening to a movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, you can just kind of make your own images in your head as you're listening to the song. And I love how most of the songs, too, are like 5-6 minutes long. I think the shortest song on there is like, 2 minutes, something like that.
Yeah,
that's just a
there's
prelude.
one that's, it's pretty short, but that's definitely its own little world, too. So it kind of veers off for a second there.
So why is it like mostly instrumental? What made you take that approach to this album?
Well, so in the years leading up to making the record, I really did start getting into like film score music and people like Hans Zimmer, Olafur Arnolds, Niels Fromm, and it's just so inspiring. Like, because one of my favorite quotes is by my good friend Tabor Mullins. He says that lyrics and words tell you how you should feel in the song. But when it's just music, you can kind of make it up as you go. And especially like with the storyline that this album is, having a lot of instrumentals in there really helped the flow of the story, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so... basically just to tell a story. That's why the instrumentals are there.
So what is the story of the album? What's the message that you're trying to get across to people?
Oh, man, that's a good question, and that's a loaded question. So, I mean, really, the record is really an autobiography of my life for like the past 3, 4, 5 years. But I wanted to write the songs in a way that people can like insert their situations into it, and walk away with it feeling good about what their next step is. So, I mean, the storyline is really, if it was a movie, it would be about this character who is wondering and just searching for what to do next, for the life purpose, for, the next big step to take. And he, throughout the album, this character is like pushed and pulled in a million different directions with like songs like Has Anyone Seen the Sun and Skirmish. That's kind of the overview of it all.
Skirmish was my second favorite track off of the album.
Yeah, everyone's seeming to like that one.
The album cover and the title of it, Finding Home, and the word tree on top of tree on top of tree. Yeah. What was the meaning behind that? Was it just something that looked cool, or was there something symbolic more behind it?
Okay.
It's all symbolic.
That's an even bigger question. So, so since we have time, I will give a bit of the backstory. So the tree is a real tree.
Okay.
That is in the redwood forest in California, and it has just a lot of meaning for me and Beth and the rest of my family, my mom and my dad. And me, mom, and dad went on vacation out to California when I was like really little, and And before we went, my mom, she was just, praying, and she was like, God, just show me something. Give me anything. Give me something. And, we're out there in California just having a good old time. I'm acting like a cowboy or an Indian or something. and it's not until like a week later when we get back. I don't know. Mom just like kind of had this revelation about this tree, and man, it's just so crazy. And long story short, the tree like kind of flows with multiple things in my life. Like if you'll notice, there's 7 pockets of leaves on the tree. And there's also 13 separate trees growing from it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a nod to the first band that I was in, called 713. So, but the real tree in California also had the same thing.
And we actually didn't know how many it had. And we actually took a trip in July to find the tree. And when we got to the forest, this forest was like, you could tour it. It was made up of all these really weird trees just all in this one place. And so when we got there, we searched for like 4 hours for this tree and couldn't find it. But it ended up being the first tree when you walked in, but it had fallen. And it was like over 3,000 years old.
Wow.
And it had fallen like 3 years prior. So we had no idea. We couldn't find anything on this tree. And the whole forest was based around this tree. It was actually called the family tree.
Yeah.
And so on the individual branches, there was actual trunks of a new tree that would grow on the branches. And there was 13 total. And we didn't even know that till we got back, because we found one little DVD in the gift shop about this tree. That was the only thing we could find. And none of our hotel rooms had a DVD player, so we had to wait till we got home. And then we learned that there was 13 total on the trunk. And so it was just...
It's a little bit creepy.
Kind of full circle.
And the weird thing, I won't go into it all, but after we started figuring all this out, there was something pretty transformational that happened in my life around the time that the tree fell. And I'm not saying this is some, big mythical thing or mystical, whatever the word would be, but it was just interesting.
Yeah.
And my whole vision from the get-go was I'm sure you've seen the picture with all the mountains and the guy running through the field and that kind of thing. So that was going to be the album cover. But it's like when we got back from our trip and learned so much about this tree, I was like, all right, we've got to make the tree the album cover. Yeah. It's just too perfect. But I know that a lot of people are going to have questions about it, but the next album is going to have a lot more to do with the tree.
So you're already planning the next album.
Man, I'm planning years and years ahead.
That's crazy. Well, how long did it take to make this album? Because like I was saying at the beginning, there's some songs that are 5-6 minutes long. There's all these, there's so many instruments. I lost count.
Yeah.
All the different types of voices. Just seems like all of this timing and preparation and planning went into this album. How long did it take to create it?
It took me 3 years to make it.
It seems like it would take longer than that almost.
Well, but it kind of did, because the first song that was written with intention to be a part of something, a larger work, was Sitting on Top of the World. And there's pieces of that was written in 2014.
Wow.
So, it's been, going on for a while, but really to sit down and get all the other players and that kind of thing, it took 3 years.
Yeah.
But hard work pays off.
Yeah.
You created such a beautiful album. From start to finish, it's like you were saying at the beginning, it's cinematic. It's like you're listening to a movie. And speaking about all the musicians and singers that you had on the album, who were the contributors?
Yeah, so I just did a lot of random stuff. I did some guitar and piano. I don't play piano, but I would just do it. And Beth did a bunch of vocals, but Beth has also done all the photography and videography work. We'll get to that in a second. But my good friend Tabor Mullins, he kind of helped me co-produce everything. Played electric guitar. And bass, yes. Caleb Hall and Jake Ratliff, they played drums. Who else we got? We got the string quartet. Katie Van Fleet on violin, Megan Bryant on violin, Natalie Howe on viola, and Nathan Bailey on cello. Who all have I named? Tony Mullins played Hammond organ. Eric Wurzelbacher is the crazy saxophone player.
I was going to ask. Yeah,
he's
that was
so good.
Awesome.
One of the, man, he's just so talented. Yeah, we'll talk more about him in a second. Drew Stumbo played keys on some of them. Oh, and Chris Castle. He's the crazy guy playing pedal steel on Finding Home.
What a cool name, Chris Castle.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a big Nashville guy now, so he's doing a bunch of crazy cool stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you go about finding artists to perform on a record like this? I mean, is it kind of a word of mouth, or do you have to actually research to find these people?
Well, me, Jake, Caleb, and Tabor, somewhat. Hey, we've been playing for quite a while, and Megan too. We've kind of been playing for a while, but everyone else, I just reached out to them, and I run a studio too. So Eric, he had actually been on a few sessions that I worked on, so that's a good networking tool too. Working on other people's projects.
It helps.
Yeah.
So what about the influences for this album? One sticks out to me quite a bit because I know you, Bon Iver.
Okay.
Yes. and you're the guy that turned me on to them, and I've been a fan ever since. And that's what I love so much about this album, because with their style of music, it's hard to find anything that sounds remotely close to what them guys do.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. But what other type of influences?
Yeah, Bon Iver, they're definitely the number one influence, probably. But Dave Matthews Band changed my life forever when I was a young lad. So that's always going to be an influence. Like I said, Hans Zimmer, Olafur Arnolds, Niels Fromm, film score guys. Let's see, I don't know. What are some other bands? Snarky Puppy, Moonchild, Hiatus Coyote.
You're the only person that I know that listens to Moonchild around here.
They're great. They're great. That groove music, that offbeat, misplaced snare.
It's so great.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So okay, the documentary y'all were talking about, I mean, of course, with such a cinematic record like this, you have to have some type of movie to go along with it.
Yeah.
What are some things that people can expect to see in this documentary behind the album?
You talk about that.
Yeah, so this whole process, pretty much from start to finish, I have been kind of following everyone around and kind of documenting every aspect of this whole project. So when we recorded drums in that big church, we got all of that. When we done the string quartet in the church, got all of that. When Brennen has been sitting home recording or just demoing things, got all of that. And we've done interviews with everyone that played on the album too. And so you can expect to see kind of their take and their perspective from, because a lot of them would get the album in bits and pieces and just like figure out what they needed to do. But to hear it all back now, it was just like, it was kind of mind blowing. I know Nathan was talking about that the other night when we were on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
How everything had changed even when he heard it, because the string quartet kind of jumped in last. That was one of the last things we recorded.
Yeah, that was the last big thing.
And he got to transcribe all the music to all the string parts for the whole thing. So when everything got put together, he was like, wow, this is awesome. So we kind of, I'm hoping that you all can just kind of get like the behind the scenes effect from all of it, just to see what all went into it and all the craziness that happened along the way.
Yeah. And we tell a bit of the story too behind it. But like I said before, record 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's when the story, I think, is really going to be revealed.
Yeah.
This is literally just
how
the
many
first
albums
part.
are you planning?
Hey,
here?
man, I mean, I don't know. As long as I'm living, I'm gonna I'm gonna make something crazy happen.
And we have some song stories too that will,
Yeah.
for every song, that will tell you kind of what the song is about. So if you listen to the album from top to bottom, it's legit a whole story, like all together. Like some of the songs flow into each other, so it tells a story from top to the bottom. So you need to listen to it in that order to really get this story and put yourself in it.
So for the behind the scenes, was that something that you kind of had planned from the beginning, or is it something that kind of organically happened?
Yeah, we knew that we wanted to have everyone on board. Like with the collective in general, it's been, our whole thing has always been to, we've always had 10, 12 players.
A lot, yeah.
And so like one time I think we actually played with like 10 or 12 people on stage at once. So like we've always wanted to incorporate everyone, just everyone that supported us, like for them to see, everything that we did and just be a community and just tell the story.
Build the family.
Yeah, build
That's
the
the
family.
goal.
Yeah. We don't want fans, we want family.
Yeah.
So
Well, speaking about how you just said you had 12 people play before, how do you even go about playing something like this live? I mean, there's so many special effects, there's so many different
yeah,
type
we
of
haven't figured
instruments.
that out yet.
well, yeah, with this music, that's the next big thing. We
Yeah.
haven't figured out how to make it happen live yet. But, in the past, we've played with 2 drummers a lot on a lot of our shows. And so we're kind of used to that format, multiple guitar players, multiple keyboards. But it's been super cool and different to bring in the string quartet
Oh yeah.
on this
for sure.
record. So that's going to be something good.
Well, it adds so much. I mean, if you're wanting
Yeah.
a cinematic album, you have to have
Yeah.
a
Oh,
string quartet.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a very cool. Also, tell people kind of behind your background. I mean, you're a sound engineer, all
Sure.
this good stuff. Kind of tell people your story about how you got started in the music industry, both of y'all.
Sure. Yeah. So, I started playing music when I was pretty young. My dad's a musician and a vocalist, and, he taught me a bunch of stuff. But, I just kept playing, wanted to keep expanding my instrument vocabulary, I guess. And yeah, got a job at the Mountain Arts Center. I run the recording studio at the Mountain Arts Center. I worked with a local company actually called BT Media Group out of Pikeville. Worked at the expo, and that allowed a lot of networking too.
Yeah. And
But yeah.
Blackbird. Into Blackbird.
Yeah, went the only musical education that I have is for engineering, and I went to the Blackbird Academy in Nashville. So that helped a lot, especially when making this album and recording every piece of it and everything.
Well, Blackbird's such a legendary place, I mean, any real musician knows Blackbird.
Yeah.
What about you, Beth? How did you get started?
Well, my family, it's kind of the same. My whole family's always been very musically inclined, but I started the Big Sandy Idol program straight out of high school, and I was in the Big Sandy Singers, and that's actually how I met Brennen. And so thanks Clayton Case if you're listening. But so just from there, really, and honestly, like I've played some keys guitar pretty much my whole life too, but I really, I guess, had a reignition of passion for music when I met Brennen. There was a lot of, I feel like I was sheltered. I don't know, I listened to a lot of country and a lot of things that I realized are just not very good.
Yeah.
But until I met
that's
him,
okay.
but that's okay.
Now we
But-
like jazz.
Yeah. But so it's really opened my ears to really, I guess, hear music instrumentally to get something out of it rather than just having to have words all the time too.
So for y'all, what made it click? You were talking about how you met each other during the Big Sandy Idol. What was the connection there?
I don't know.
Because she's so pretty.
Good answer. Very good answer.
Yeah, I would say that on the radio too.
Yeah, well.
Well, I don't know. It just happened, I guess. But
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like at one time we were pretty opposite.
yeah,
And opposites attract.
yeah,
But now we're pretty close to being the same.
yeah.
So how long are y'all going on now being in a relationship?
Well, we've been married this makes almost 3 years this year. So we've been together, 6 years,
Yeah.
I think. So,
Ish.
yeah, 6-ish years.
Wow, congratulations, y'all
thank you,
two.
thank you.
Thanks.
We're chugging along.
Yeah.
So for all the people out there listening, I'm sitting here with Collective. They have their new album, Finding Home, out right now. You can be hearing it right here on the Homegrown Happy Hour. But for all the folks out there listening, where can they go to listen and also look out for the documentary?
Yeah, definitely. Well, be sure to follow us on like Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Collective Band Official is our, what do you call it?
Username.
Yeah, username.
URL.
Woo, there we go.
I don't know.
And our website is also collectivebandofficial.com. So check that out. And we keep it updated. So when the documentary does come out, everyone will know about it.
Oh, I mean, y'all do a fantastic job with all of the social media stuff.
Thank you.
But yeah, folks, this is an incredible album. Like I said, you're going to be hearing it right here on the Homegrown Happy Hour. Brennen, Beth, thank you for your time today.
Yes,
and I
thank
look
you.
forward to the 2, 3, 6 other albums that come along
Absolutely.
with
So do I.
this one. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next week right here on Foxy 94.3.
I can see the light on the summit, but I'm down here wandering in the snow. I don't know which way I'm heading, but I'm just trying to get back home. It's been a while since I've been there, but I can still feel the fires blaze. As I wrestle through these timbers, I find my heart's a darkened maze. But I'm finding home. I'm finding home. I don't recall what had happened when I was taken from the bed, pulled by lack of patience and faith in love that didn't last. I was a boy trying to be a man. Now I'm just trying to get warm in this vast Arctic land. I'm finding home. I'm finding home. Trekking up the ridgeline, darkness shows no remorse. It's taking everything in me to refuse the sacred force, but it's the company that keeps me steady in the turns. What's hiding in resistance could be the greatest lesson learned. No